The BlokeBusters podcast is a proud member of the Pod Bros Network.
You can find us as well as other fine shows such as
Sarcasm City,
That's Delightful,
Worst Millennials,
The Ectoplasm Show,
and Late Night Gamers at podbros.com.
Now get ready to sit back and enjoy another episode of the BlokeBusters podcast.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Police going off! Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Welcome to another Film Spotlight episode here at BlokeBusters. I'm Paul, and Brian is unfortunately not able to join us. He had a few things going on, so I will be trying to steer the ship this time around. You can be the judge as to how well I do that. Real quick up top, just get a couple of the social medias out of the way. If you like us, what we do, so on and so forth, find us on Twitter or Instagram at BlokeBusters, Facebook, all that good stuff. Just search for us, you'll find us. And I'm trying to get this all done really quick because got a great guest for you today. She is an actor, a writer, and the creator of the fiction podcast It Makes a Sound on the Night Vale Present Network. It is Jacquelyn Landgraf. How you doing?
Hello, bloke singular. Hello,
yes.
Buster. Hey, Buster.
Yes, it works
Hi.
either way. Well done. I hadn't even thought of that.
I feel like we should bring Buster, but I wish people were, saying hey, Buster more often.
Yeah, well, I think if you can increase the sale of fedoras, you can probably start bringing that back. Yeah. I think.
Hello, Buster. It's me.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, well, great. Happy to have you. So why don't you tell people a little bit more about who you are and obviously more about It Makes a Sound, because I'd quite like to talk about that for a little bit. So
great. I would love to. Well, I am an amateur film aficionado, so I really definitely belong here on this podcast. I am, as you so eloquently introduced me, I'm an actress and a writer and a director based in New York. And my show, It Makes a Sound, just wrapped up our first season. There's 9 episodes in the very first season. And the Night Vale guys, Jeffrey Craner and Joseph Fink and Cecil Baldwin, we all know each other from a theater company called the New York Neo-Futurists. We all worked together for many years, doing late night downtown theater and kind of in a creative boot camp of writing and performing to a sometimes sober, sometimes not sober crowd every Friday and Saturday night in the East Village. Mm-hmm. And so a few years ago, when they were putting together the Night Vale Presents Network, they asked if I would like to write a podcast, and I said yes, and that's why I'm here tonight.
All right. Yes. For those of you that don't know, yes, It Makes a Sound. Obviously available through the Night Vale Present Network, but pretty much anywhere all podcasts can be found. It type of podcast that you don't see very much of, really. I don't think I've run across anything quite like it, where it's a fiction, but it really does feel real. So I must congratulate you there for how well you wrote that. And it's someone who is trying to remember and get the word out about this amazing artist from their youth that has vanished, and they're just trying to spread the good word and get as much information out as they can.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't really want to say too much about what's in it because I enjoyed so much learning as I was listening to the episodes as they came out that I kind of want other people to do that. But if you were able to sum it up in a couple of sentences, how would you describe?
Well, it is about a woman who is forced to return to her sad hometown, which is basically now an abandoned golf course community. And she finds a cassette tape in the attic from 1992 and goes on a very tenacious mission to awaken the residents of this town to the musician who should have been its most famous resident. And
Yes.
As you said, I think one of the great creative gifts that Night Vale gave me is a real opportunity to kind of play around with an unfolding narrative and, go back to a radio play in some ways. And so there's a lot of unfolding mystery in the show. And I feel like it seems to kind of start out as a solo show that then kind of blossoms into an ensemble piece about an unlikely creation of a band.
Yep, I would say that's a very good way of explaining it without explaining it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, please listen to the show. We would, we hope you listen.
Yeah, I mean, if only one person that listens to this goes and downloads, we've technically done our job. But hopefully more people than that will at least give it a shot after this.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell celebrities to tweet about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is about, I would say, it is about music and the power of music and memory. And I think the things we rely on our memory for, and also kind of that the impossibility of memory, and how it's like trying to pin a wave upon the sand. So that has been kind of a big exploration of it. It certainly has a lot of 90s nostalgia, but I don't think it's primarily, I think it's kind of about like, how do you bring this kind of pivotal memory of your late childhood, early adolescence into your present, and what is that? What's the collision of that in some ways? Like, kind of what mess does it make when you're trying to revive the past for present purposes?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that, and at least for the first half of it, a woman's mission to be able to play a cassette tape, which is
that's right. Yeah. You need some tools to play a cassette tape, and Deirdre doesn't have that for a while.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And it's not as easy as, let's say you have a VHS tape still. You can take that to many places and they'll transfer it onto a DVD for you. They don't have that for cassette tapes, as far as I'm aware. At least it's not as popular as VHS to DVD. So yeah, it's very fun to listen to this journey, or not much of a journey, at least to begin with. I
know, a futile journey in some ways. I mean that was one of the things that was really fun about making it, is kind of thinking about, the world that I grew up in, which was like much more of an analog world.
Yeah.
And what is lost, with that in the digital world in some ways. There's a lot of fun things to think about with that.
Yeah, and I say let's probably leave it here before we actually get into really analysing it to people that may not have heard it.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, please listen. It's on itmakesasound.com and on iTunes and Spotify and Radio Public and Stitcher and all the places that you can listen to a podcast. It's right there for you.
Yes. Go listen in. I have no idea what the runtime of this is going to be, but let's say 30-ish minutes.
You're never getting out of this.
Nope. Yeah, this episode is now stuck on repeat, so good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
All right, so we obviously got you here. Now I got you here to talk about a film that you love and a film that you hate.
Yeah.
And we shall... Well, I would normally say we should start here, but obviously, full disclosure, I happen to know that the films you've chosen are from 1992.
Yes, I love a theme. I love a theme.
So most people would say, well, that's not fair, you're now slightly biased. And that would be true if I'd actually thought to do any research whatsoever on the films that came out in 1992.
First of all, I don't even, I haven't seen you. I don't know you. Were you alive in 1992?
I was indeed. I was, let's see. So yes, very quick, man. I was born in 87, so I was 4 and 5 in 92. So
okay, watching so many films.
Oh yes, well,
all the top films of 1992.
Oh yes, definitely. You couldn't get me out the cinema. And, but
it's not Aladdin, which is the Disney movie of 1992.
Yes,
I did consider talking about Aladdin because that was a seminal event for me. But
okay.
But it's not Aladdin, so I'm sorry, 4-year-old Paul.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure I can get by. And and yes, for the listener's sake, let's hope I've at least seen one of the films that you.
Let's hope.
All right, so
it'll be a long 4 hours.
Yes, it will. We always start with the film that you love, and I'm going to attempt to guess at the genre, and all right, because Brian is not here, one of my 2 guesses will be what he always goes for, which is buddy cop.
Absolutely not.
Yes, I was going to say, not that I know of any buddy cop films that came out in 1992.
I do. You want to know a great one that came out in 1992?
Okay, sure.
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, with Sylvester Stallone and Estelle Getty.
Okay, I definitely have not seen that one.
Okay, it's also not that. It's not Aladdin, and it's not Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Okay, we're narrowing it down here. Okay, so let's see the other one. What should I pick? I mean, I may as well go for the one that I almost always go for, and I'm just gonna do the broad net of sci-fi.
Nope.
Okay, and that's about average for the guesses that we do. So.
And now you've exhausted your genres.
Yes, that is it. That is all that we know. So, go on then. What film did you pick?
Oh, I go right to that? I can't even just give you the genre and then see if you can guess it? Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Why not?
Okay. It's a rites of passage genre. Sports. Rites of passage. What is it, audience? You know what it is. You know what it is, audience.
A sports rites of passage film. Oh god, now I'm just thinking of Angels in the Outfield and stuff like that.
Not 1992.
No, I have no idea when Angels in the Outfield was in. I just know Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in it.
Love him though.
Yeah,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. All right, here's another hint. Batter up, fear that call. No.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'll bet you anything you're going to say it, and everyone's going to go, of course it was that, and I'm going to go, yeah, I haven't seen that.
Well, happy International Women's Day, everybody, because we're talking about A League of Their Own.
Yes, I definitely have not seen that one, but...
You disappoint.
Yes, I do apologize. It is one of probably several thousand films that everyone else has seen, and I have not. But,
don't like women?
But that will...
Is it because you don't like women?
No, I take exception to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Great. Do you like baseball?
To be perfectly honest, I've never been to a game, but I have absolutely nothing against the game of baseball.
Sure, I don't like baseball, but I do love A League of Their Own.
All right, well, there we go. So it turns out people that don't, even people that don't like the sport can enjoy this film. So that's a good thing going for it then. So, all right, then the first thing that...
So how can you talk about it? You don't know it.
Well, that's fine.
Call in people.
Yes. We'll wait.
Talking into a void right now.
Yeah, well, anyone that's a fan of Night Vale will be very used to that.
That's true.
So, go on. Why don't you sell me on the film? Tell me why I and everyone else should see this.
Paul. Well, look, I mean, thank God you're from Britain and we were allies in this war. But it's 1943. And all of our American men have gone abroad to fight for justice and for to fight for America. But what about baseball? What's going to happen to baseball? And so somebody has a wacky idea to see if some women can play. And so it's based on the true story of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League that started in 1943. And it was the first professional women's team. And they did play, through the entire war. I mean, it's like they show in the film, like Joe DiMaggio heading off overseas, and all the greats. And so this is kind of the story of the women's league that started. And actually, like, I think in the film, they kind of fictionalize it that it was kind of only happening through the war, but it actually did go on until 1954. And the movie is kind of framed in the present day of 1992, when the Baseball Hall of Fame was celebrating the 50-year anniversary of the creation of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, and dedicating part of the Hall of Fame to them.
Cool.
Yeah. See? Don't you want to see it?
I kind of do now. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, and it has Gina Davis and Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell. It's like Rosie O'Donnell's one of her first films. And Tom Hanks, of course, and John Lovitz and Bill Pullman in this like totally side, non-existent part. It's awesome. It is an awesome film.
Yes, based on that cast, Madonna, yes, that was about the time when she was starting to try and get a film career going. So I guess it doesn't surprise me she was in it, but is she like one of the major roles in it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real ensemble. The lead is Gina Davis, and like, frickin' Gina Davis, what a woman. She's like Helen of Troy. How does she look like that? She's like 6 feet tall, a redhead, this goddess. I don't know how much you know about. Do you know a lot about Gina Davis? You don't know base. You don't know the movie. Do you know things about Gina Davis?
I have seen her in Thelma and Louise. I've seen her in the remake of The Fly, and recently we also reviewed Earth Girls Are Easy. So I finally got to see that film. So I've seen her in that as well. So yeah, she's definitely seems like someone that like knows what she's doing around comedy. But obviously Thelma and Louise, she's fantastic in that. So yeah, I'm sure she not. Pun absolutely not intended, but knocks it out of the park in this one.
She did knock it out of the park. But, I feel like one of the reasons, there's so many reasons that this was one of my favorite movies of my childhood, but I really did look up to Gina Davis. And I think like one of the Gina Davis 101 trivia facts that many people know, do you know this, is that she is a member of Mensa. She's a genius.
Yes, I believe I've heard that one before.
And she also, I think she went, I think she's like an Olympic or like pre-Olympic archer.
Of course she is.
Of course she is. And then also, I know a lot about this film, but so everybody in the film, like to audition for the film, you had to play baseball. So Penny Marshall directed it.
Right.
Of Laverne and Shirley, Penny Marshall. And, one of the main things she knew is that like the entire cast were really going to be baseball players. So every time you see them play, they're actually playing. They have like every now and then a stunt double, but it's mostly just really these actresses playing ball. And
cool.
All the injuries are real injuries, and there's some like really gnarly injuries in the film, and they're all real. Like they just played. I think they filmed part of it at Wrigley Field in Chicago, my hometown. Right. But I think most of it in like rural Indiana somewhere. And I read that like Lori Petty, who's in it, like she threw more than most Major League Baseball players do in a season, like during the filming. But anyway, my point is about Gina Davis, who I guess came on last minute because Deborah Winger was going to be the lead.
Okay.
And apparently Deborah Winger tapped out when Madonna came on board. Scandalous. So the rest of the cast had been training for months. And Gina Davis, like in a week, became like professional level baseball player. She's amazing. She's a genius. She's an archer. She's an actress. She's a baseball player, and she's gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, I did a very quick Google search here about the archery thing, and she, as you say, she was an archer. She went to try to be in the US Olympic archery team in the 2000 Summer Olympics. She placed 24th out of 300 and didn't qualify, and she later admitted that her introduction to archery was 2 years before the tryout.
That is crazy. She's crazy. She's like Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah, a little bit. She's almost got she must be slightly savant level.
Yeah, totally.
That's insane.
That is insane. It's totally insane. Yeah. I love Gina Davis. And when I rewatched the film this week in preparation for this podcast, it just gave me such happy feelings. It was like, seeing her like she milks a cow. Oh, it's like, I'm just going to talk to you as though you're also a fan of the film. I was like, man, when she milks that cow. When she does those splits and catches this like impossible ball. Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, I think you've effectively sold this to me that I'm going to try and see this in the next week or two.
Oh my god, it's good. $3.99 rental on iTunes.
Oh, there we go.
You're there. Subscribe. It makes a sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's professionalism, folks.
This movie, like, there's so many things about this movie that I feel like were really important to me. First of all, I saw this for the first time in 1992. I was 9 years old. My mom and I drove. Like I said, I'm from the south side of Chicago, and we were driving my great grandmother to visit her friend Goldie, in outside of Gary, Indiana. And so, like, I remember this day so vividly. Like, we dropped my Nana off with Goldie, and Goldie had like a gold couch also, I remember. And then my mom and I were just like outside of Gary, Indiana in 1992, and we stayed at this motel. And I remember as a child being like, oh, now I'm experiencing danger. It was like a really seedy, like side of the highway in weird, like outside of Gary, Indiana motel room. And there was, I very vividly remember as a 9-year-old, like stains on the carpet, like this unusable bathtub, like stains on the bed. And my mom, I remember, put like all the other furniture except the bed that we were sleeping in front of the door because we were in danger. And there was nothing to do. So we found the one cinema around town, and we drove there, and they were playing A League of Their Own, which, like I said, was filmed in Indiana. So I feel like there was like some Indiana pride of showing this movie, and it was being played on a projector, like a 35 millimeter, and we were the only people in the movie. Oh. And it felt very sacred to me that was part of the sanctity of seeing the movie for the first time. And it was an amazing movie for a young girl of 9 to see with her mother, and it was so funny, and it was so like these badass women playing sports. But also we just saw it all alone in the theater, and the movie ends with actual footage of the actual baseball players from the time. So like now they're like, and it's like their reunion, and they're in their 70s and 80s, all these women who were part of the professional league from the 40s and the 50s.
That's cool.
And so you hear Madonna's song, "This Used to Be My Playground." And so that song is playing while you're like watching these women play ball. And I just remember like sitting there weeping hearing this Madonna song. And still to this day, like there are so many times where just apropos of nothing, I'll just be like walking alone somewhere, and I'll be like, "This used to be my playground." Like, it's such a weird song, such a sad, nostalgic song that actually has a lot in common with the podcast I wrote. Like, this used to be my childhood joy.
Well, you basically covered what was going to be my next question, which was like, what about it speaks to you? And it's obviously very obviously a really personal experience there, kind of linking this in your mind. So that really cool. Like you don't hear, at least I find, you don't hear too many stories now of people that say they had this experience when they went to the cinema, and that's why the film means so much to them. Because I think, and it's a little weird, and I don't know exactly why I think this, but going to the cinema used to be such a big thing. I mean, obviously,
I know.
Back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, it was a huge thing. Like people would go in droves to the cinema, and it would be massive. And now it's just like everyone will go to the big blockbusters, and then you just get these other films that just seem to just come out, and people might go and see them, and they'll see them at 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, and it's just no one really cares too much about it anymore, and there's not that much of a spectacle around it. So I love hearing stories like that. The only film I ever went to see when I was one of two people in the audience was actually Bicentennial Man. I went with my friend to go and see it, and we got there and we were like down to the wire of when it was going to start, and we were like, oh, we hope there's a ticket left. And we bought tickets for it, and we walked in, and there was nobody there. So we sat down and we watched Bicentennial Man, and halfway through it, we decided we were going to move 6 rows forward. So we just got up, went 6 rows forward, sat down, and watched the rest of the film from there. It was just, I'm never going to forget that.
I know. I mean, I live in New York and I work mostly in the theater. And so I still feel that sacredness about going to plays, like that communal special event where someone is performing for you, and there's something irreproducible about that experience, because it's really not going to be the same night to night because it's a new moment and it's live. But I do feel like I have such a connection to the movies from when I was young, and I don't really feel that anymore. It was like, I thought it was so special to go to a movie theater. And when I was thinking about A League of Their Own, I was like, right, I know that it was on 35 millimeter, I assume, because it was just my mom and I and the projectionist.
Right.
And I really miss those days too. Now you have to go to this. It's like that has to be almost like a gimmick of something, of like a theater. I don't know. I can't think of a theater, who still projects the films like that.
Yeah, I assume they're very far in between at this point. One of the reasons I really want an Alamo Drafthouse to come near here is because they at least really treat the cinema going experience as something sacred. They have a policy of you're not allowed to be on your phone during the cinema. I think you effectively get one warning, and if you're seen on it either talking or using it texting, you're out. So they have loads of little things like that, and it's like that's what it should be like. But
I know. I was gonna say that an Alamo Drafthouse opened in Brooklyn a little over a year ago, and that has sort of brought back the special experience of going to the theater.
Lucky.
But there's still now there's also more bells and whistles. It's like also I'm drinking alcohol then at the Alamo Drafthouse, and eating fried pickles, and there's cool trailers. I love it there. I love that we have one. It's really exciting, but just the purity of just going to the theater and sitting in not very comfortable seats, and it was just all about the film.
Yeah, I mean, the weirdest seat story I have was myself and a friend. We went to go and see something. I'm not even sure what it was. I believe it was Triple X. I'm fairly certain that's what it was.
I don't know the film Triple X, but is it what it sounds like?
It is not. It is a Vin Diesel action film.
Oh man, what a disappointment!
Yes, I know. Although it was weird. It's got Rammstein on the soundtrack, which was very odd, but also kind of set the tone for the film. But what was really odd about it was we bought our tickets, and in England, if you buy tickets at the cinema, you buy your tickets and then you reserve the seat because you're buying the seat for that showing. that's how it works in England. There's no, you just buy a ticket and then you go and find a seat.
Right. Okay.
So we did that, and we walk in and our seats are taken.
Oh, no.
And we had no idea why. And we were about to kind of walk out and figure out what was going on. And we saw there were 2 seats that had been taken off and were just resting against the back wall, but they weren't attached to the floor. So we looked at each other and we sat down in those seats and we watched the film from there.
Nice.
And it was slightly surreal. And so I really enjoyed the film more, I think, because it was just a different experience. I mean, the film itself isn't fantastic cinema, but sure, I enjoyed it. So.
But going to the movies, it is an event. It is one of the great pleasures of life, I think, of being entertained and, being in one place with other people and hearing a unified story.
Yeah, very much so. And yes, hopefully the people at Hollywood and the people that run cinemas are listening to this right now and are changing their minds and going back to...
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I've been meaning to write a letter. Yeah. Hollywood.
I'll help you draft that if you want. So.
Thank you. One of the other things I wanted to say about A League of Their Own, which you should know, is that, like I said, it's kind of framed in... what was then the present day. And so we're seeing the older versions of these women who we come to know and love through the film. And I feel like it's one of I can't think of a lot of other movies like this, but they didn't age up Gina Davis and Lori Petty and Madonna. Like, they cast older actresses as them. And I really love that. There's something that was really effective about that. It was like seeing older women reflect on what was, for the sake of this movie, a highlight of their life, a time that was really important to America in a lot of ways. But what's also strange is that they cast the older actors, but they dubbed in Gina Davis's voice. So there's this weird uncanny effect where you're seeing clearly this other woman who looks, like good casting for what Gina Davis could look like someday when she's in her 70s, but you're hearing her voice and it's so bizarre, but really effective.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah. And a few years I was in a play reading with the woman who plays older Kit. Kit is Gina Davis's sister, who's like a significant character in the movie. And she's like, she can't live up to Gina Davis. Like, she's just not as pretty as her, and she's not as talented as her. And she's living in her shadow. And she's this like scrappy tomboy who comes into her own through A League of Their Own. And at the end of the movie, you see older Kit for a brief moment. And I think that maybe she has a line like, Dottie. I think that may be what she says. She might say, Dottie. But I was in a play reading several years ago with the actress who played older Kit. And I swear to God, there's very few times where I'm like around movie stars that I like really, geek out. Like I'm a fangirl, but being in a play reading with older Kit really meant a lot to me. The second I was like, old Kit.
Did you manage to like rewrite the script so that she had to say Dottie?
I wish. It was some like Edward Albee play. It's great in, but like, and she in the movie was like the equivalent of a day player. She barely had any part, but it really meant a lot to me to see her and work with her because I love this movie so much.
Well, cool. I'm glad that you got that chance.
Thank you.
Yeah, something I wish that I could. I don't know who it would be though. I genuinely don't know which actor. I mean, I used to know before he died, but it would have been Robin Williams. But obviously,
right. No, bless him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting who, especially in New York, it's like, you see actors all the time And I feel like it's kind of the New York thing to just like be cool. And I'm an actor, and it's like, all right, it's like great, you're an actor, but it is funny the people that you like are then like, oh my god, I love you. But Robin Williams, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I was. Well, the next question I normally ask is, do you have a favorite moment or scene? But it feels like just the entire film is your answer to that one. But is there any particular thing that, like, no matter what, that's your favorite from it? Or
It's funny. Well, I mean, it's like there's the classic. Do you know the classic line when people say "A League of Their Own"? Do you know what people usually say?
I'm willing to bet if you said it, I would go, yes, I know that, but I don't have it linked in my head to the film. So what is it?
There's no crying in baseball. Are you crying?
Okay. Yes.
Crying in baseball?
Yeah.
Like that's the classic moment, and it is a great moment. But something in the similar way that Madonna's "This Used to Be My Playground" loops in my head. There's this moment where one of the players, I think the character's name is Alice. I don't know what the actress's name is, but it's just like this amazing. It's like so many sports movies or rites of passage movies have the essentially like a training sequence that's often the most exciting part of the movie. Just how they go from underdogs into overdogs, and and A League of Their Own has a great extended sequence of that. It's very exciting to watch. It's like all to music, and you like kind of rapidly see them go from like a not watch team to America kind of taking the girls seriously, and that's like interspliced with kind of like propaganda, black and white footage that they would play in movies, like to kind of promote the league.
Yeah.
But there's this one part where you see this character Alice like lying on the bench with this huge bruise down her ass, like, and down her leg, and it's disgusting. It's like this foul bruise because one of the things that like these girls have to play in these little skirts, right. And so they're really playing baseball, and they're sliding into home and everything, in these tiny skirts with bare legs. And so, like I said before, those injuries are real. All those actresses had those injuries.
Yeah.
But that really made a mark on me when I was a 9-year-old Jacquelyn, because I was like, right. It was like, to get anywhere, like, you gotta have some ugly bruises. And I swear that moment is just like part of the montage, but it's just like kind of grisly bruise that she has all the way down her ass. Really flashes into my mind when I've come against like difficult things, where it's just like, yeah. Like you gotta take the hard knocks.
Yes, that was your introduction to the School of Hard Knocks, right there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you gotta slide. Oh, I think one of the mottos of one of the teams, it's like written on their tour bus, is "Dirt in the skirt." You gotta get some dirt in the skirt, ladies.
All right. Yes, a very
hard knock life.
Yeah, very hard knock life, and also, obviously in the modern times, a very un-PC slogan that would get somebody fired, I'm sure.
Definitely. Yes, but they use it as a celebration. Like, they're like, we're tough.
Yeah, you basically got to own it, otherwise it's just going to be used against you. So, yes,
yeah.
I like that.
There's a lovely moment, like, it's a movie of the 90s, and it's talking about, this basically true to history moment in America, and so the league is all white women, and there is, like, for a movie in 1992, there is one nice, like, intersectional feminist moment where a ball goes off the field, and there's a group of African American women standing on the other side of the fence, and this woman, like, has the ball and pitches it to Gina Davis, and it's like clearly this amazing pitch, and like Gina Davis is like, like shaking her hand because it was such a fastball.
Yeah.
So I think that's a nice, it's kind of, the whole movie is showing the journey of these women in the 50s to get to be taken seriously. And as a sports team. And then I feel like it has a little bit of awareness. It certainly could use more of a moment, but I think that's a lovely, I remember that striking me, pardon the pun. I remember that being struck by that moment as a little girl as well. Just like, right, it's just like the cycle of oppression continues. like we've got a long way to go.
Yes.
It's a lovely movie. It's so funny. It's so funny. John Lovitz is so funny. Tom Hanks is good. Rosie O'Donnell's so funny in it. It's just great.
All right, yes, I'm definitely going to look out for this one.
You better, and then I'm going to interview you about it.
Okay.
Great.
I'm more than willing to do that. We'll just have to figure out when and where, I suppose.
Great. All right. That's a leak their own. One of my faves.
Yeah. Normally I end it by asking about if there isn't a sequel, would you want one? But this seems like something that there is no sequel. It's a story about this time, there's nothing else to say. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing like the continued story of the reunion when they're all in their 70s and 80s and continue to play ball together. I want to see that group.
Now would you go the stereotype old people playing sports where everything's slowed down just a little bit, and like rather than running to first base, they're hobbling to first base?
You should see that. And like I said, during the end credits, you're seeing the actual league who are now, old women, and they are amazing. And they're like running the bases, and they're getting up in the umpire's face. They're amazing. They're hitting home runs. They're amazing.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that they were, and possibly even still are like that. I was just thinking that imagine sitting down in a Hollywood script saying, going for the sequel for this, and they're like, okay, so we're going to do the old people here. It's like, all right, well, we've got to have the one person trying to run the bases with a Zimmer frame. We've got to...
with her oxygen behind her, yeah.
Someone's using their oxygen tank as a baseball bat.
Yeah, love it.
I mean, yeah, if someone decided to make a parody sequel to this, maybe you could do that, but no, yeah. It sounds like this film is a very good standalone, so...
I think it's a standalone. It's a moment in time, and a real dedication to this particular group of women, of a moment.
Right. All right, yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm very glad that we got to talk about that one.
Me too. I hope you see it.
Yeah,
There's no problem in baseball.
I very rarely promise, but I promise I will see this one. I will figure that out and get it done.
You owe it. You're an American now.
Yes, once I finish watching season 2 of Jessica Jones, I will get it right away.
All right. Okay, good. It's a good follow-up.
All right, so we now need to move into the slightly more murky waters of the film that you didn't like.
Yep. Well, I'm sticking with 1992, people.
Yeah.
So to yourself, what did you hate in 1992? You might have been a fetus, but what did you come out of the womb hating?
What did I hate in 1992? Let's see.
What did you hate when you were 4?
Yeah. Probably being taken away from the television. I feel like even back then I was very much a fairly lazy person that enjoyed just sitting in front of the TV for hours on end. So definitely that. I believe my taste buds have changed, so I pretty much hated all fruits and vegetables.
Sure. Good British man.
Yes. But yeah, not having the list of every film made in 1992 in front of me, I probably couldn't give you a film off the top of my head. So what about you then? What were you disliking in 1992?
Well, I was in 4th grade. No. How old are you? I was 9. Yeah, I was in 4th grade. Oh, 4th grade was rough. I went to 12 years of Catholic school. I went to the largest all-girls Catholic school, high school.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
In the country. I loved high school. Mother Macaulay High School on the south side of Chicago was a great blessing for me in my life. I loved it. My grade school was another story. They were such disciplinarians. They were, it was the 90s, but they were still living in a bygone era of like on the brink of corporal punishment.
So you had the penguin from Blues Brothers as your teacher.
Yeah, like it was rough. And I had Ms. Miller that year, and I constantly had detentions. And I'm like a really good student and a really good girl, but I got detentions all the time. And it was just because I would do all of my homework and then I would always forget it at home. It was like psychological somehow. I just couldn't get it together. And I do think that the teachers were all just like, what is up? Like, we know that she's doing the work, but she never brings it in. So my fourth grade consisted of a lot of staying after school for detention and literally clapping erasers.
Okay.
That was what we did in detention. We scrubbed the floors and we clapped erasers.
Brilliant.
I know.
I really hope that if you did both, you did the erasers first and then the floors, because otherwise you're just making more work.
Go outside to clap the erasers. Don't be crazy. There's this moment actually in my podcast. It makes a sound. Have I told you about it?
I don't think you have. Why don't you do it now?
But there is a moment because there's one of the characters in the show is 10. So I have actually thought a lot about what it is to be a 9 or 10-year-old. And he gets handed chalk. And he's like, I've never used chalk. And I think that's true. Like, what do you really have to use chalk for anymore? Yeah. But I have a lot of chalk triggers because I spent most of 1992 in a cloud of chalk.
All right.
And I was not watching this movie that I'm saying that I hated in 1992 because it's rated R.
Okay.
So that's a hint. Do you want to know the genre? Or are you going to guess it?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't think I could guess based solely on that.
Not Buddy Cop.
Sorry?
It's not Buddy Cop.
Oh, no, yes, not Buddy Cop. Not sci-fi either. I would imagine. 1992 R-rated film. I don't know. Give me one more hint here. Let's see if I can guess it.
Stiletto heel. Oh, Paul.
Okay, I think I know what it is. If I'm right, I haven't seen it either. Is Dustin Hoffman in it by any chance?
No.
Okay, so it's not what I was thinking of. But okay, go on then. What?
Well, the genre, surprise listeners, is slasher fic.
Ah.
No?
It's like I can kind of see it, but I just can't formulate what it is. That you're gonna have to tell me.
Happy International Women's Day! It's single white female.
You know what? I've never even heard of this one.
You haven't heard of it?
No, I have not.
Oh my god! I feel like it's such a it's so in the zeitgeist. It's such a colloquialism to just say are you single white femaling me?
Yeah, that's the thing. I've heard of the single white female kind of as a cliche, but I've never even heard of this film. I didn't know there was a film called. I mean, I guess it doesn't surprise me if you pretty much put any 2 or 3 words together, you're going to end up with a film title.
Well, as a current single white female, I feel misrepresented by this film.
Okay.
But okay, so Paul, it would be so fun, wouldn't it be so fun if we knew these films together?
I know, it would be. And the sad part is, if I knew this film, I would then have to watch the film that you're about to tell me you hate. So
I know, but it's a complicated. We'll talk more about it. I feel complicated about saying that I hate it.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's
fine. Basically, the description cannot better be described than the actual IMDb description, which is exactly the ad that the lead character, played by Bridget Fonda, puts in the classifieds, which is single white female seeks female to share apartment in West 70s, non-smoker, professional preferred. That's it. She places an ad for a roommate. Guess what? The roommate's psychotic.
Oh no.
So it's Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Okay.
And it's a roommate from hell.
Yeah, and as you do,
But I think I feel like the reason that it's become really part of like pop culture is that the way it goes down is that Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, the roommate, like slowly appropriates the identity of Bridget Fonda's character. It starts easily enough, like suddenly she's buying similar clothes. But then she seems to take an interest in Bridget Fonda's boyfriend. And then in the classic scene, she takes Bridget Fonda is like fabulous. What happened to Bridget Fonda, by the way? Do you know anything? Where is Bridget Fonda, anyone? Is anyone keeping tabs on Bridget Fonda?
I honestly don't know. I know she's still alive, and she's married to Danny Elfman, but outside of that, I don't know what she's been doing recently.
Yeah, what happened to her? Such a sweetheart. She's from Hollywood royalty. Surely an act of nepotism could get her part. My mom's been watching a lot of Grace and Frankie, that Jane Fonda show on Netflix.
Yeah, my wife has started going into that.
Oh yeah. See, Bridget Fonda, that she's Jane's niece. She should get a part on that. It's very creepy though. I mean, I have to say, like watching the movie, I really prepared for this, and I rewatched it this week. And up until Jennifer Jason Leigh enters the movie, I thought I was watching Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I was like, "Oh wait, like that's Jennifer Jason Leigh," and who I was watching was young Bridget Fonda, not young Jennifer Jason Leigh. But kind of like the classic turning point moment is Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, Hetty, her name is Hedra, Hedra, I know, weird, right? Takes Bridget Fonda's character, Allison, to the salon as like a treat. She's like, we're going to get our hair done. And Bridget Fonda like has this very specific like end of 1980s, early 90s Vogue look, which is she has this like total bowl haircut and like flaming red. It's like a real statement haircut. And so she's getting her hair done, and then like down the stairs walks Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's gotten the exact same haircut and dyed her hair to look exactly like her. So it's really creepy that like by the end of the film, they do really look alike.
And I'm trying to think of, it's kind of like sparking something in my head of
your psychotic roommate who took your identity?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, my name's actually Jim. No. No, I swear there's a film I've watched that it obviously not quite like this, but it was another film of someone trying to take someone else's identity. It was like a really old film.
Well, is it? I mean, there's the Ingmar Bergman film Persona with Liv Ullmann, which is an amazing film. And this like fancies itself to be Persona, but is like so not so pulpy.
I'll say that could be it. I believe I watched that over a decade ago at this point, so I'm a little fuzzy on the details. But yeah, that's probably what was
Ingmar Bergman in another league. Like that's a true like psychological, deeply artistic picture, and this tries to play in that world. It's really like a pulpy, slightly porny 90s film.
Yes. Yeah,
but I have to say, like the first time I watched this was at some sleepover, like at Megan Elwood's place when I was in grade school. And I don't even think we got through the whole film, but I remember at the time being, scared. It's like it's a good enough thriller to be scared of it, but I feel like even then I was like eye roll. But then, and so I was like, right, great, this is the movie I'm going to say that I hate. But then I watched it again this week, and I'm like, no, I don't hate it. I was actually kind of riveted by. It's bad, but it's like a good bad film. It would be like a good, kind of chintzy drinking game film to watch.
Yes, I mean, obviously not Mystery Science Theater-esque, but that type of thing where you just get a bunch of people around, you just make fun of it while you're watching it.
Yeah, and the women, I mean, Jennifer Jason Leigh does not have to be as good as she is in the film. She's really good. She's a good actress. Like, she's so natural and quirky. She's such an interesting character actress, and she's quirky, and I feel like she's subtle enough. Like, I just feel like the film does not hold up for them, and they are doing their best being these kind of like women who turn on each other. You know, it's so cliche. But I think that they give better performances than the movie offers them.
Right, yeah, it's one of those things where the material they were handed was not necessarily the best, and they were able to make it their own.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you know, obviously I've been kind of living in 1992 research for a while, and one of the things that's interesting, especially in like looking at the films of 1992, is one of the things that was said about 1992 in America is it was like 1992, year of the woman. And when I read that, I was like, really? Like, I don't remember. I know I was young, but I don't remember like in 1992 suddenly being like, wow, I'm overwhelmed with women in power. Oh, it's too much, you know? It's like everything amazing is happening for women.
That kind of feels like someone high up somewhere was just like, well, we should probably throw him a bone. I think, yes, it was the year of the woman. They deserved it. Well done. Yes, let's move on.
Yeah, but I guess it was coined that because it was the year that the most females ever were voted into the Senate.
Huh.
There was like 6 women in the Senate, and it's the year after. You know, I know you're a Brit, so
yeah.
Perhaps you have no interest or care of this, but like 1991 was the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill trial, where she accused him of sexual harassment as he was being, considered for the Supreme Court.
Right.
And then the year after that was this like year of the woman, where suddenly there were more women in Congress than ever before. But it's also interesting then looking at the movies from 1992, because there's a lot of movies that are like, these psycho bitches from hell. Like, Single White Female, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Basic Instinct, like the crying game is not really in that, but like there's just a lot of like, oh yeah, look what happens with powerful women. Like, they're gonna kill you with a stiletto to the eye.
Yeah, it really is interesting that things like that tend to come in waves, and it feels like, especially if this year, the year of the woman, came after that court case, it must have just caught the attention of all the writers, and they were like, okay, like something's coming and men are going to fear that this is coming, so how about we start writing this stuff? And so they're going to have an outlet.
I wonder. I was looking at the list. I was like, wow, there's a remarkable lot of like sociopathic women thrillers. But this one, yeah, this is interesting. I mean, so, you know, it's like the first shot of the movie is like, does creepy right. Like, all you need to see is like a little girl putting on lipstick. Like, you see this kind of like sepia toned little girl putting on lipstick, and then the camera pans out and her twin sister's there, and they're both like putting makeup on each other and being creepy twins and like smiling into the mirror together. So you're just like, okay, like immediately you just get these like creepy twin girls in a void putting on lipstick. And then the next shot is this huge apartment complex on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And I just feel like immediately you think Rosemary's Baby. Do you know Rosemary's Baby?
I do. I really enjoy that film.
Yeah, and I just feel like the immediate message of these films is like, don't move to the Upper West Side. Like, like nothing good can come from living in these ornate old apartment complexes on the Upper West Side. Like, because this place in the famous Ansonia Apartments, which is in the West 70s, and then the Rosemary's Baby, of course, is at the Dakota, which is on Central Park West, where John was shot. And they both are very they're similar places to live, and they're so incredibly ornate and opulent, and nothing good goes down there apparently.
Apparently not. I mean, it really does feel like there's all of these giant buildings that are so grandiose, and so everyone's just like, well, I'm never going to live in that thing, so therefore it's the murder house. Something bad must be happening there.
Totally. Well, beware, yuppies. You're going to die here. You're going to look really good while you die, but you're going to die.
Well, some people would take that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, Bridget Fonda, I couldn't tell. I was really hoping you and Brian would be able to, hopefully riff with me on this, because it's so interesting, isn't it? Watching things from the 90s or even the early 2000s where they're dealing with computers. Bridget Fonda you don't really understand what's going down with her, but she's some amazing software genius, and she has this effectively a laptop when no one should have laptops in 1992, and it's this futuristic white briefcase looking thing, and she just pulls it out at a restaurant and shows her client this incredible software. And you don't really know what's going down with her, but right away you kind of see that her boyfriend, her lover, Steven Weber, good old Steven Weber, classic yuppie hero of the 90s, is talking. They're talking about their wedding, but then she hears on the voicemail, voicemail. I guess it was called voicemail back then, right?
I believe so.
Answering machine. She hears on the answering machine a message from his ex-wife, and his ex-wife says on the message, what, you come over and you have sex with me today and then you just leave? And so, of course, they break up. And
I love that. I always love the really cheesy, which is just when you came over at 10:03, and it's
we had sex several hours ago. So that is the instigating incident of the movie, because poor Bridget Fonda also happens to have a rent-controlled apartment on the Upper West Side.
Of course.
But she doesn't want to be alone there. And so she feels like it's a good idea to get a roommate to help her fill this incredible apartment. Because she can't be alone.
Yeah. Because you can't do that. You just
because you can't be a totally successful software genius who's so beautiful alone in the Upper West Side.
Yes, what? No good will come from that.
No, you need a woman to accompany you in your life. So she gets a roommate, and then things unfold from there.
Yeah, as they usually do.
Yeah.
So what? Obviously, you're saying you don't hate the film. You just kind of got this begrudging animosity towards it. But so what specifically did you remember about the film before you rewatched it that made you really zone in on? No, I hate that film.
I was just what? I just remember thinking when I was young. Somehow I feel proud of myself in this way. I'm right. I felt young, even young. I was this movie's cheesy. And it's this woman on woman horror, of surely your best friend is backstabbing you, and literally, spoiler alert, the villain dies because she literally gets stabbed in the back by Bridget Fonda.
Of course. How else in a film like this is the killer gonna die?
I mean, and it's epic. It's like the epic climax of like who's gonna die lasts forever. It just goes on and on and on. But the other things that I feel like one remembers when one is watching this as a young person is you can never forget watching someone die from getting a stiletto in the eye.
Yeah, I would imagine that would stick with me.
Yep, that really sticks with you. And then the other thing that really blew a young Catholic schoolgirl's mind was that at the height of her intensity, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Oh, by the way, Jennifer Jason Leigh turned down the part of Dottie in A League of Their Own.
Oh.
Presumably to do this movie instead. I say, Jennifer, wrong choice.
Yep. She's probably still kicking herself for that.
So in sort of the height of her mania, she goes to Steven Weber's hotel room. And Steven Weber has conveniently been away on a business trip. So he was not there when the roommate had gotten her hair cut exactly like Bridget Fonda's. Mm-hmm. So, of course, Jennifer Jason Leigh just has the keys to his hotel room and crawls in there while he's sleeping and wakes him up with a lovely blowjob.
Of course.
And he, stirs and is excited by this. And then there is the moment where he realizes that it's not his girlfriend, Allison, but rather her roommate, Hetty. And he there's this moment where he makes a half-hearted attempt to push her off, but then seems to decide instead to come.
Yeah, okay. He's like, oh, fine. Yeah. What am I going to do?
It's really hard to understand this moment. And, because it's very wrong. Obviously, it's incredibly wrong what she did, but he did have somewhat of an awakening in the midst of this and did still profusely ejaculate into her mouth.
I dare you to somehow write that into the second season of It Makes a Sound.
I can't. I cannot.
No, yes. Yes, sadly.
Branding.
Yeah. I mean, if you can somehow get profusely something, you can just word that, and then we'll now know what that actually was.
I know. But then he does effectively pay for his whatever that moment was by.
Yeah, transgression, I suppose.
Yeah. He quickly is punished for that by dying by stiletto. Death by stiletto.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that feels like a moment that we could really write theses on for our gender studies major.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, trying to think of in the way that a student at university would be writing a paper, you could argue that it's a subversion in the horror film trope of people that have sex need to die.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Seriously, I think so.
Yeah, so the catch-22 of the fact that the person that kills you is the person that made you have a sex act, and then, it's...
Yeah,
I think I'm giving it too much credit.
I don't know. That's what I waver with this. This is why I'm like, how much do I hate this? I'm like, what is? Because I do feel like it is an interesting case study. It's like it is an interesting moment. It's not a good enough film to actually be considered worthy of this. It's like one should spend their time thinking about Persona by Ingmar Bergman. But it's interesting. Another thing that I love, I did not remember this, but one of the joys of rewatching this film was that, that there's nothing good can come out of little frumpy Jennifer Jason Leigh's character. And she's strange and very dependent on Bridget Fonda and very, very nurturing of her right away in a way that is lovely and somewhat uncomfortable. But she buys Allison, she buys Bridget Fonda's character a puppy, a Labrador retriever puppy. Huh. And there is this like very small moment where early in the film, she's like, Bridget Fonda has like gone out for the night. And so she's really pissed off that she's left her for the night. Alone in this gorgeous apartment on the Upper West Side. And the puppy is like trying to get her attention and she just kicks the puppy. Just like casually kicks the puppy. And it's definitely like Chekhov, if I don't know if you know Anton Chekhov, but like there's kind of like his famous rule is like if there's a gun on stage in the first act, it has to go off by the third act.
Yeah, the smoking gun.
Yes. And I was like, right, like if you kick a puppy in the first act, like that puppy needs to get thrown out of the window soon, and it does.
Oh dear.
And I did totally forget that part, but as soon as I saw her casually kick the puppy, I was like, oh, this puppy, nothing good is going to happen for this puppy.
No, and it's kind of the sad fact of I mean, would you say this is classed as a horror at all, or is it just like a thriller type thing? Is it?
No, it's slasher. Yeah, slasher is horror, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
True blue slasher fic.
Yeah. Could the issue when it comes to animals in these films is if there is either a cat or a dog in these films, chances are something's going to happen to him. Like, especially if it's like, oh, look, here's a new puppy. It's like, well, no, couldn't you have got a goldfish? Like, at least, it's kind of sad, but at least if a goldfish ended up falling to its death or being stabbed or something, it's like, well, what? Like, yeah, it's a goldfish. Whatever. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's that puppy wasn't going to make it. Yeah. There are some nice, this is like the nice drinking game lines. Like Jennifer Jason Leigh does have some nice zingers and she acts it so well. And like, there's this line where Steven Weber, I think shortly after aforementioned intercourse moment, says something like, "You're out of your skull." And she just like has this amazing look on her face as she takes that in. And she just goes like, yeah, well, sticks and stones. I love that moment because you could feel like the expectation of that was that him alluding to her being crazy was going to, really offset the killing, but instead, just like, yeah, well, sticks and stones.
Yeah, and it would have only been made better / cheesier if it had been, yeah, well, sticks and shoes.
Yes, exactly, Paul. It's like you've seen this film now. But it's got all the tropes, It's like, can you guess the root of why she's a psychotic killer? From what I said. Well, remember what I said about the beginning of the film?
Yeah, and I'm trying to say, I would imagine that it has something to do with her being one of those twins.
Yep.
That you mentioned.
Right, Paul.
Let me see. Okay, so she is / was a twin.
Yep.
And she's psychotic, which means that
she's trying to take over an identity.
Yes, that tells me that she killed her sister. And now that's kind of just, she's trying to latch onto other women as much as possible to be like surrogate sisters who will always disappoint her and they'll always fall apart. I mean, if I had to write a cheesy...
you're
nice,
very, very close. That's very close. I don't feel bad about spoiling any of this because it was 1992, people. So if you haven't seen it, like, you're out of luck, you did it to yourself. But I don't think we're meant to think that she killed her twin, but her twin did die.
Okay.
And there is some sort of non sequitur, hard to decipher line about like when you're a twin, one is always going to be prettier. Like, you can't be an identical twin. One is always going to be prettier than the other. And the other person and the other twin ends up doing all the work. And I'm like, what? I think that's supposed to be the point of the movie. I think that line is supposed to be the psychological underpinning, but I actually don't even get the literal of that. Like, one twin is always going to be prettier and the other one does all the work. What?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'll bet you anything if you were to go to a psych ward and say that line, they'd all be like, well, yeah, that's how that works. But yeah, I haven't got a clue where to start with that.
Yes, I don't want to dismiss the psychology of this. It's like, what do I know? But I just felt like that line, and it's like, it's different to just talk about a mental illness versus like talk about the script of this movie.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't attempting to talk ill of that. So.
No, I don't mean to diagnose her, but I just was like, wait, I think that to this screenplay, that is a very significant line, but it doesn't make any sense.
Nope, not in the slightest.
Yes, and then when it's all said and done, and our protagonist survives, I feel like there's a clear message at the end. It like really does tie up in a slight bit of a Hallmark card, where there's like a voiceover with Bridget Fonda. This is a reason to hate it. Where it's like, I forgive myself. Like, I try every day. I try to forgive myself. I try to forgive her, Hetty. I try to forgive Hetty for Sam's death. Sam, blowjob stiletto. Yeah. Like, I try to forgive Hetty for Sam's death, and then I follow by trying to forgive myself because I've seen what happens when we don't. I'm like, that's the last line of the movie.
All right. No, yeah, that feels like they forgot to print the final page when they had to do the dialogue.
Yes, and I know that connects to the twin. Like, I get the overarching thing there, but like, I'm like, really? That's not the takeaway I have from the movie. That like, this is what happens when you don't forgive yourself. It's just like, this is what happens when you have a rent-controlled apartment on the Upper West Side and you need a boyfriend.
It's either going to be this, or you're going to be besieged by talking cockroaches. And if you get that reference, I'm very impressed.
Yeah. So there's, I'm not totally hating upon the film, but like, there is very questionable woman turning on woman action and a lot of cliched, like semi-porn. Oh, there's also this moment that I don't know. If I was a producer, I'd be like, just explain this moment to me again. Where apropos of nothing, like we know Hetty to be this like real homebody whose whole identity is formed by, in relation to the roommates that she's with. Right. But one night she goes out by herself. After she gets her hair cut, she feels really great. And she goes out by herself, and Bridget Fonda follows her. And she goes to this BDSM club. And as a New Yorker, it's exciting to see movies that take place in New York, because I'm like, oh, right. Like, I know the staircase she just walked into, and I know what that is now. But I also know that it used to be in the 90s, this like famous gay bar called the Manhole. But it's meant in the movie to be this like really bizarre, underground, intense, BDSM club. And I'm like, what is she doing there? And it doesn't even show her doing it. She's just like at the bar talking to some guy. So I just feel like the movie, of course, like it's a horror movie and it's about women, but they keep trying to put in all this, this sexuality into it that doesn't all add up.
Yeah, that kind of feels like it's about the same as I don't know why this flashed into my head, but from The Simpsons, when Homer's looking for a new bar, so he's not allowed to go to Moe's, and he's just say, something about this bar doesn't feel right. Hang on, this lesbian bar doesn't have a fire exit. And then he just like, that just flashed into my head when you were trying to describe her just in this random bar talking to someone. Like, yeah,
right, it's like clear that there's a lot of interesting sexual things going down at this bar, but we don't see her engaging in that. She's just like having a drink at the bar. But like Bridget Fonda like has followed her, has like literally taken a taxi and is like, follow that cab. It's this whole side, like we take like 6 minutes to follow her there, and we don't know why. We have no idea.
So literally, really, they could have just cut that out of the film entirely then. So it takes 6 minutes to follow her, and then nothing comes from it whatsoever. So,
yeah, I think that they're like, I don't know. It's like they were trying to show some. I really don't understand the intention. It's like it seems like maybe they were trying to, like, in this kind of very commercial film, trying to show some sort of like seedy underbelly of New York. But one, it doesn't seem seedy at all. It just seems like, oh, like cool things were still happening in New York in the 90s. And it doesn't offer any further explanation of character except that it's like things are not as they seem with Hetty.
But, well, unless there's a point earlier in the film where she said, "Oh no, I don't frequent places like that. I could never."
Right.
Like, unless that line is in it, yeah, that kind of feels like they're just trying to say, "Hey, look, she's weird."
Yeah, and I hate that message. It's like it's not some sort of it's not perversion. Like, it's not anything. Like, who cares? She went to an underground bar downtown. Like, who cares? There's cool things going on downtown. Like, don't try to make that part of whatever her psychosis is. Like, that's wrong.
Yeah, and for those of you that haven't seen the film yet, there's cool things that go on downtown. Take it any way you want. Really, that
yes.
Especially in this film, apparently, that really could have any meaning.
Yes, and New Yorkers, the stairway she walks down is on 13th Street and 9th Avenue, if you're interested.
Oh, there you go. So, yes, see this film and then take a little walk and take a photo. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, I'm curious as to, this particular thing that you do on your show anyway, which is like, have people choose a film that they hate, because it's like, clearly these films are also worth talking about. I'm not saying to anybody, don't see Single White Female. It actually is like an interesting, very bizarre period piece, and it's not good art. But it does have strange things happening that feel maybe of the time.
Yeah, well, it's one thing that, like, when I came up with this, I thought it would be a fantastic way of kind of getting to know people through the framing device of what do they really like and want to champion, and what do they really not like. And, like, obviously we get to talk film, so that's always a lot of fun. And then when it comes down to it, it can be cool to talk about a film that you really like, but it can be just as fun, if not more so, to discuss something that you definitely dislike. And so
definitely, there's just so many loose ends in this movie that is like, come on, what?
Well, I think we should probably start wrapping it up. So why don't we leave the loose end for people to discover on their own?
Yes, please tweet us about it.
To that end, then, if people did want to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Oh, well, I do have a Twitter handle. It's at Jack Landgraf, JACQLANDGRAF. And then also our Twitter handle for It Makes a Sound is at IMAS Podcast. So IMAS Podcast. And I'm on all the social medias and stuff, the usual.
You're listening to this podcast,
You're savvy. Hip people, I'm sure.
Yes. And yeah, in all seriousness, I reached out to you because I adored your podcast. I thought it was so well made, so well written, and I would love for people to go out and find it. So anyone that hasn't listened to it, please at least download episode 1, give it a listen, see if it's for you. Hopefully it is, and you can thank me later.
Thank you so much, Paul. That's so nice of you to say. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I'm hoping that season 2 comes around. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how everything falls into place, but here's hoping that it works out for you.
Thank you. We do have things percolating. Nothing I can really talk of much right now, but there's the show, like I said before, it does really change in style, and there is music, and so we're kind of working on some music stuff right now and have announcements coming up. So
All right. Well, I will keep my eye out for that.
Thank you. Wait to hear your follow-ups when you've seen these movies.
Yes. I'll need to I think take a weekend and just just watch them and see what I think.
I'd really appreciate if you watch these back to back.
I might do.
It's a whole tour of female leads of 1992.
Yeah, I think I would do Single White Female first, followed by League of Our Own.
Sure.
Because, I'd rather end on a high.
Yeah, have a palate cleanser, yeah. Good.
All right, well, again, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
Best of luck to you and happy film watching.
Oh, well, thank you. And once again, anyone that wants to get a hold of us, you know where we are. Just search BlokeBusters. We're there. And thanks one more time to Jacquelyn. It was great having you on.
Hey, thank you.
No problem. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.